day 2 of the Queer Lit Readathon. I didn't really get a chance to verbally update you yesterday because, well, I was just doing other things, wasn't it? But I wanted to, introduce the vlog, catch up with you on what I've read, what I'm planning on reading, and what the week ahead holds before me. So I actually have the day off today. I scheduled the day off mainly because I have a dentist appointment in a couple of hours. Oh, hi, baby. So my friend has come to say hi. Mainly because I have a dentist appointment later where I'm getting the temporary crown, and I am nervous as anything about it. Like, I think it's partly not having been to the dentist for such a long time because of us all sort of being cooped up inside. Dale. But also just because it's quite a big dental procedure, it's got me feeling really panicky and really on edge. So I just knew I wouldn't be able to do anything else today. My anxiety is just up here. So I am having a day off, and me and my pal here are sitting outside reading before I go away, aren't we? Yes, we are. So I thought I would share with you what I'm reading and what I have read already, because I've finished 2 books. I know, slight cheat, because one of them was a book that I was 2/3 of the way through, and that is Burn Our Bodies Down by Rory Powers. So I had planned on finishing this before the readathon started, but I hadn't. However, it still works because the protagonist, a 17-year-old teenage girl named Margot, is a lesbian, so it is queer. So yeah, it fitted in quite well, even though I didn't start it for the readathon. And really, this is just about reading queer lit. It's not about sort of pressuring yourself to finish things before you're ready to finish them, because I don't have time for that. Since it is June though, and Pride Month, I would actually like to make sure most of my reading is queer, not just for this readathon. I want to try and maybe read exclusively queer books throughout the month. So that was also why I had started this one before the readathon began. So Burn Our Bodies Down was a YA thriller / horror. I was expecting this to be more thriller than horror based on what people had said, but I definitely think it falls into the horror genre. It's a little bit different from what I'd expect from a thriller, and it went in slightly different directions, but I did really enjoy it. I think the pacing wasn't perfect for me. I think that balance between thriller and horror was a little bit off, in that it started off quite different tonally at the beginning of the book and it shifted. Just really want to be on the camera, don't you? It shifted tonally, so I didn't love that about it, but I did find it a page turner. I love the YA horror thriller subgenre because I think it's such a page turnery genre, and it's so fast to read, and this definitely was. It's not a new favourite by any stretch of the imagination. It's a sort of solid 3.5 stars, I would say, but I did enjoy reading it, and it was a very quick and easy one to read. There are a few different bingo slots in the board that I could count this for, but because I didn't start it during the readathon, I'm going to use it as a backup, and for now not count it towards any of the challenges. However, I do have one book that I can count towards the challenges because I finished Bingo Love, which honestly doesn't surprise me. I started it last night because I finished that book during the day, and this was my first official book of the readathon. It was also one that was on my TBR. It ticks off a few prompts because it ticks off shorter than novel, as it's a graphic novel. It ticks off M-spec because one of the protagonists is bisexual. It could be counted for vintage because a lot of the events of this book take place throughout the 60s and 70s, as it sort of goes all the way through the story of 2 women who fell in love when they were teenagers but weren't reunited again until they were much older. And it also contributes to me making sure that my TBR overall is at least 40% BAME or POC authors. So again, this one was a mixed bag. I love the artwork. The artwork is stunning. Let me show you some of the art. Oh my goodness, is this illustrator talented. I adored these spreads. I also loved the concept. The story concept is lovely. I've already said it's about these 2 teenage girls who fall in love in the 60s, but their families tear them apart because of societal prejudices and homophobia, but then find one another again when they're much older, and they have to both come to terms with what they lost being separated for all those decades, but also what they may potentially have as a future even now. And I love that it's also the story of a romance between 2 women who don't get to fulfill their romance until later in life, because so often romances are about people who meet when they're teenagers or in their 20s, and then they stay together throughout that, and it's nice to see a romance and a new chapter in someone's life start a little bit later. So all of that I loved, but I didn't actually think the writing or the plotting or narrative was very strong. It felt very rushed. I feel like a lot of my love for the characters comes from my sort of insertion and enjoyment of the storyline abstractly rather than the way it's presented in the book, because you barely get to know them, you barely spend any time with them. It all happens so very quickly, and I mean, like, every event happens so quickly, and it all just feels like a little bit too neat, a little bit rushed, and a little bit like quick and easy, and that just took away from some of the emotional impact for me. So I think, like, fantastic concept, fantastic art, just not sure the writing was executed as well as I would have liked. There's also this really irritating point in the story where one of the protagonist's husbands has a secret, and he reveals this secret to her, but you as the reader don't get to know what that secret is because it's part of a separate graphic novel, which I don't even think ended up being published from what I've read online. There is an omnibus edition of this, so I don't know if it's included in that, but it's not included in this basic edition. And there's like an asterisk sort of side note saying you can find out what his secret is in this graphic novel, comic book, side story. Yeah, I know, it's annoying, isn't it? But it's not there, and it's apparently a pivotal part of the plot. So I think that again is just sort of indicative of how the plot wasn't necessarily that well told. But in saying that, it's such a quick read, and there is so much in it that I think is so worthy and endearing that I wouldn't necessarily tell anyone not to read it. I think it still has a market and it still has an audience. I just think be prepared going into it. It is very quick and it might not give you everything you're looking for. But yeah, I finished that last night and then started 8 Pieces of Silva by Patrice Lawrence. Although I had mixed feelings about Burn Our Bodies Down by Rory Powers, it did very much put me in the mood for YA thriller horror, and this is a YA mystery thriller, so I thought I would pick it up. In terms of the readathon, this one would work for a hard-hitting contemporary as well as summer read, because I said I really like a thriller in the summer, and I'm so pleased that it actually feels like summer. It was like as soon as June first hit, the sun was out, it was possible to go outside, go to the beach, and that's been so lovely. So as you can see, I'm planning on reading outside this morning until my dentist's appointment, and so far I'm really enjoying it. I'm not terribly far into it, no, 20 pages so I am intrigued. We've sort of just got to the crux of the mystery, which is shared in the blurb and obviously happens in the first 20 pages, which is that Silva, this girl's stepsister, has gone missing. So we follow Bex, whose mother has married her stepfather. They've been together for 7 years, so they are a family at this point. They've like lived together for a long time, but they've only just got married and they've gone off on their honeymoon, leaving Silva, the 18-year-old daughter, and Bex, the 15-year-old daughter, together in the house. And Bex comes home from school and Silva's locked herself up in her room in a mood because she's been having a lot of these moods recently, and Bex doesn't want to disturb her, so she leaves it until the next day when she realises nobody is in Silva's room, and nobody has been in Silva's room this entire time. Where has she gone? She does not know, and her parents are obviously away globetrotting in Japan and she can't get a hold of them, so she's flung into this incredibly flung headfirst into a very scary situation. And the main character in this one, again, I think is a lesbian. I don't think she's spec. I'm pretty sure she's only into other girls. So yeah, that's a queer rep in this one. And then I also plan on listening to my audiobook today, because I ended up downloading the audiobook of one of the books I did have on my physical TBR because I had a spare Audible credit, and I just love non-fiction on audiobook form, so I decided to take the plunge and also get the audiobook edition of We Have Always Been Here, which is a queer Muslim memoir. So that's what I'm going to be listening to when I have time for audiobooks today, like when I'm heading off to the dentist, etc. Can you tell I'm nervous about the dentist since I keep bringing it up? I've never had a crown before, and it's my front tooth here that's getting the crown, so it's just like a little bit nerve-wracking. Next time you see me, I might look completely different because my teeth might be completely different. Who knows? You will find out, I suppose, when I next talk to you. But yeah, that's kind of my update on my reading. I'm super excited to be reading queer for the rest of this week and hopefully this month, because I love queer lit, you know that. It means a lot to me. So yeah, I hope you enjoy coming on this journey with me. Hello there, it is day 3 of the Queer Lit Readathon. I wouldn't say day 2 because it's only really my second day of vlogging, but it is technically day 3 because it's Tuesday, and I thought I'd give you a little update on my reading. So, since we last talked, I finished our book. Look, I don't know what's possessed me because usually I'm not this quick a reader, but in my defence, this is very short and I was also listening to it on audiobook like I mentioned. So the audiobook itself was only like 5 or 6 hours to begin with, and I usually listen on 1.5 speed, so it probably took me about like 4 hours to listen to. And between like going to the dentist yesterday and like going for walks into the supermarket and stuff like that, I just managed to speed through it. I actually was even able to have it playing whilst they were doing the temporary crown, which still feels odd, but this is not the point of this vlog, so I will not talk about my teeth any longer. So yeah, I finished this and it was excellent. I do have to say there is something for listening to memoirs. Like, I'm sure I would have loved this if I'd read it all physically. Now, I did like flick through it last night, late at night, when I just wanted to read the end, but I love listening to somebody narrate their life. Like, I feel like it's very personal, and you get all of their intonations and a lot of their personality through their voice. So I would recommend the audiobook, but I would also recommend the book. So both are brilliant. It was, like I said, just very quick, and I think because the author is actually still quite young, like she has a lot of her life ahead of her, it was in a way quite short, and I feel like I could have spent more time with her and learned more about her life, but you know, she wrote up until now, and that's what I got. And I really enjoyed learning about her experience growing up in Pakistan and then moving to Canada, her experience with arranged marriage and her family, and finding her independence as a woman and as a person of colour in Canada and as a queer person. And it was a really like emotional journey, but a really, really like well told story, and one that really let you into this woman's experience. So I would highly recommend this. I think it's brilliant. And I've also been continuing to read 8 Pieces of Silver, which I think I mentioned I'd started in my last clip. So I'm now over 100 pages through. I'm 111 pages in, which is more than a third of the way, because it's about 300 pages in total, and I'm really enjoying it. But honestly, I have no idea where it's going. It's really surprised me in terms of the plot and the characters. Like, there has been some discoveries and sort of information that's come up about Silva, the main character, Becky's sister, that I was not expecting, and I feel like I'm questioning a lot of things. I don't know what to expect. I don't know if I'm being misled by the author only for them to turn around and surprise me. Don't know what's going to happen, but I'm definitely intrigued, and I will have more thoughts, I'm sure, once I finished it. I think thrillers are a book that is very difficult to review until you've got to the end and until you find out how the mystery is resolved and what the twists in the story are. But you know, I'm into it and I'm enjoying it, so that's a good thing. But I would like to finish this very soon because I want to start Freshwater by Akwaeke Emezi, which is the group read for the readathon, and I obviously want to make sure I read that one because it is the group read, and as a co-host I wanted to make sure I read the group read since I helped pick it, and that's kind of top of my TBR priority next. And I am hoping that I can at least get past page 200 this evening because I'm participating in reading sprints over on Leanne's channel. So that's Leanne from Literary Diversions. I'll link her channel down below. She hosts quite regular reading sprints that I sometimes participate in and really, really enjoy. So whilst I'm reading on those, I'm going to be reading this predominantly. I don't even know if I will skip between this and anything else because I'm kind of into it and want to stick with it, even though often I switch between books when I'm reading. But that's the plan for this evening, and that's the reading I've done so far and what I am going to be reading. So I guess that kind of covers everything that needs to be covered in this portion of the vlog. Apart from tooth update. Yeah, see, you can kind of tell it's not the same, but it's a temporary one. So the finished crown, which I'm getting in 10 days, should look a little bit more similar to my actual tooth in terms of colour and texture. But honestly, I'm just glad to have a good dentist who was able to squeeze me in and help me take care of my teeth. So yeah, that's a good thing. But I am off now. I'm gonna go and eat some food before the live stream starts. So yeah, I'll see you in the next clip. Oh my, because I'm vlogging, so just hi. Because it's the queer lit readathon this week for Pride, so I'm reading queer and I've finished another book. I know, wild. Which is of course 8 Pieces of Silver by Patrice Lawrence. So, oh hi. Always whenever I turn the camera on, you just want to be on the film, don't you? Celebrity cat. Oh, yeah, great, thanks. So 8 Pieces of Silver. I again like have mixed feelings about this one. I probably liked it more than, say, Burn Our Bodies Down, but it wasn't really a thriller. There was definitely mystery, because you were trying to solve something with the main character, but in terms of the book, it felt far more like a book about grief and family and love and loss and, yeah, all of those aspects. And I liked some of the complexities of the story that they added in, and particularly the main character Bex's relationship with her father, who had been in prison, and her sister, who is her stepsister, has lost her mum to cancer, so she's experiencing that. And of course we know that Silva, the sister who lost her mother to cancer, is the one that's gone missing. And then there's also sort of like explorations of like how grief then informs some of our romantic relationships and how people can take advantage of our emotions, and that's all well and great, but I do feel like there was moments where it veered a little bit towards sort of like some tropes and stereotypes about mental health and grief that I myself don't particularly appreciate, and maybe that could have been dealt with slightly better. And I think that's because we're not really getting Silva's perspective. We get like diary entries from her, but it's not to the same extent that we get from Bex. And I loved Bex as a character, so I really enjoyed reading about her, but I think the sort of mystery element of the story wasn't what I would have hoped for. That was a little bit more disappointing, but I do think the author is a really great writer, and I could see myself reading more by her. Plus I just like loved Bex's story, and I loved her story of like young romances and her like budding relationship with other girls her age. I thought that was really nice. I really liked the queer aspect of it, although she had a relationship with one of her friends where it's also great to see how friendships can change over time, but I did not understand her friend and how her friend behaved in this book. If you've read it, you probably know what I mean, and I'd love to talk to you about it, but really do not get her friend. Like, I felt like pretty much everything Bex did was understandable according to like her age and the situation she was in, but the actions of her friend really baffled me to be honest. So yeah, all in all, maybe another like 3.5. There's definitely some 4-star elements to it, but then other things that maybe drew it down a little bit. So we've got like a pretty consistent reading vlog so far. Well, apart from We Have Always Been Here, which I would say was like 4.5, 5 stars. So yeah, that's where my reading's at. The birds obviously have a lot to say about this topic of queer literature because they are very noisy, and I am now going to get back to doing my PhD. I am just struggling through at the moment. I think just like this past year in general, like how everyone's been feeling, my mental health has been very up and down, my anxiety's been very up and down, and I've had a big change in circumstances from being in London at my university surrounded by other PhD students, going to the library and everything, and then obviously being up here and sort of removed from everything a little bit more. But even without that, I just think it's like generally kind of the anxiety of everything going on, and then the sort of fact that this is my last year of my PhD, and in a way I feel both so detached from it, and like, did you just hear my mum sneeze? Because that was really loud. I feel really detached from it, but also like not ready to be done, and it's a kind of weird feeling being so close to the end, having spent so much time on it but not being finished, and kind of that period of really writing it all down and collecting it all together and making it all make sense as an entire thesis is kind of intimidating. And yeah, so I'm having ups and downs at the moment with the whole experience. Like, this isn't me saying I regret doing a PhD, but from what I understand, it's a pretty standard feeling to feel like this in your last year, regardless of what else is going on in the world. Like, I think most people feel a lot of like emotional upheaval and mixed feelings in the last year of their PhD. That seems pretty consistent, and I'm just sort of going through that at the moment. But yeah, got to power through, don't you, and just keep going and make it worth your while. So get that doctor title. And with that, I'm gonna get back to it. So it's Friday and I'm here to update you on my reading again. So penultimate day of the readathon actually. We only have one more day left, and to be honest, I doubt I'll do a ton of reading tomorrow because Saturday I usually make plans to do something and get out, maybe go for a long walk with my partner. So again, like I said, I don't tend to do a lot of reading on Saturdays in general, but I am going to read a little bit more of this today, and it is of course Freshwater, which is the group read for the readathon. Even if I don't finish it by the end of the readathon, I know I will finish it in the next week or so, so I'm quite content and happy about that, and I'm glad that the readathon got me to start it. It's also not that long. I'm 37 pages in and it's 228, so like I've got less than 200 pages to go, but I'm also reading it a little bit more slowly than I was, say, the YA thrillers, because it's one of those books where you really just want to sit and absorb the writing and all of the imagery and everything that's going on, because it's so beautiful and detailed and complex. And I'm really enjoying it so far. There's been quite a lot of tragedy for less than 40 pages, but it's absolutely fascinating and absorbing. The author is an incredible writer, and I know that this is partially based on their life, so I find that really interesting too, and it's something I'd like to research more in terms of like non-fiction wise after, because it's looking at a very specific like phenomenon in which somebody shares their, because it's looking at a very specific cultural and sort of like identity phenomenon in which somebody shares their body with gods. I don't know much about this. I really don't have any prior information about this topic at all, and as much as the book's been very absorbing so far, I don't think it's actually like explained it to me in a like sort of broken down language that I can understand as somebody who knows literally nothing about this to begin with. It gives me a feel of what it's like, but I feel like I need to like just read somebody telling me about this in a non-fiction way as well, if that makes sense. I am going to do some research as well, but I do think the author's writing is absolutely beautiful, and I'm really intrigued to see where this story goes, because I have a feeling there's only more tragedy to come based off of the blurb. I'd really like to hear from any of you who have read it actually in the comments below, because I feel like it's a book that's really ripe for discussion and packs a massive punch for being so short. I mean, I already feel like I've been impacted by it, even though I've only read 40 pages or something like that. So yeah, I'm enjoying it and do plan on reading more, but just based on the fact that I don't read much on Saturdays, I've got a feeling that I'm not going to get further than halfway through this whilst we're still technically filming for the readathon. So I might do my final update for the vlog once the weekend is over and the readathon is over, in case I get a chance to finish it and you'd like to hear my final thoughts. But if not, I'm sure that I will share them in another video. It's been a really good reading week actually. I feel like I've read some really different and interesting things, and I really appreciate the Queer Lit Readathon for sort of getting me to pick up some of these books I've been meaning to read for a while. Always love participating in this readathon, and if you're interested in more content surrounding it, particularly queer book recommendations, then please do check out the creators and regular hosts channels. They'll be linked down below as always, Kathy and Rogan, who are absolutely fantastic. But yeah, I will leave it at this for now, but you will get another update before the vlog is entirely done. Technically the Queer Lit Readathon is over, and this vlog is also about to be, but it's Sunday and I was just reading a little bit more of Freshwater because, like I expected, I didn't actually finish it during the readathon outside in the garden, but it's too hot. Like, I'm too hot now. I had to come inside. Maybe it's just because I'm Scottish. I don't know, but I am definitely not up for more than a few hours in like that kind of direct sunshine and heat. So back inside where it's a little bit cooler, going to actually do some admin things on my computer and probably carry on with that until this evening when I go to bed and maybe read a little bit of more. So basically I knew I wasn't actually going to finish this during this vlog because I'd like to upload it in the next couple of days whenever I can get the subtitles ready for it, and you'll all be able to watch it so that it's sort of like in time with when the readathon ended. And I wanted to just give you my final thoughts even though I'm not finished. I'm enjoying it, basically. I feel like I can't give that many full thoughts or a full review on it because obviously I'm not finished. I'm about a third of the way through. I'm definitely reading it slower. Partly I think because it is a slightly more like complex writing style and narrative, although really beautifully written, like really, really gorgeous in tone and voice. But also because I just think I'm flagging a little bit. I read quite a lot, as you saw at the beginning of the week, and I've just lost a bit of my momentum. So I will be carrying on with this. I'm finishing it next week because it's not terribly long. But yeah, not during the readathon. I mean, it was probably a little bit ambitious for me to try and read like 6, 7, whatever books in a week. It was never really going to happen, but I do feel like I ticked off quite a few of the prompts. In fact, I'm going to get my laptop and double check what the prompts are. That last clip you saw was a couple of hours ago, and I've just been sitting in my bed editing, only to get to the end of the vlog and realise that I thought I was talking to my camera. After this, I went and got my laptop and talked all about the prompts and how I got on with them and stuff like that, but apparently I wasn't recording the whole time, so yeah. It's the end of the week, you can tell, but what I basically said in that was that I ticked off most of the prompts, not all of them, but most of them. I was generally pleased with my reading, and I read 4 books. Well, I finished 4 books, as you know, but one I had already started and then read part of one that I didn't finish, so like 4.5, or just 4 if you want to like count them together, but from 5 different books, basically. And it was like a nice different selection actually, so I'm just like really happy with how I got on in general, and I'm really looking forward to reading more queer lit throughout the month of June, as it is Pride Month. I'm planning on reading Affinity by Sarah Waters after I finish Freshwater because it's my book club read for this month, so again, like more queer lit, which is awesome. And apart from that, I guess we've kind of covered everything. I've lost the plot at this point, so this is kind of the state you're getting me in to finish things off. But yeah, thank you for watching. I'd love to chat with you about these books if you want to leave a comment down below, or also hear about how your reading for Pride is going. Happy Pride to everyone, and I will see you all again in the next one. Bye everyone.